I'm Mark Golub, and in the news, the stirring memorial service in Dallas, Texas, honoring 5 policemen murdered by a sniper. Brent Thompson, 43 years old. Lauren Ahrens, 48. Patrick Zamaripa, 32. Michael Krol, 40. And Michael Smith, 55. At the memorial service, 5 chairs were left open in their honor with a folded United States flag on each chair. The Dallas mayor, Mike Rawlings, spoke. So did the police chief, David Brown, who's earned universal praise for his dignity during this past week. And former president and Texas governor, George Bush, spoke about the values of America and how our nation has never been held together by blood or background, but by things of the spirit and by a shared commitment to common ideals. And a most important message for all of us to keep in mind: when we become self-righteous in our own positions, President Bush reminded the nation that so often we tend to judge others by their worst examples while judging ourselves by our best intentions. But to be sure, the memorial service in Dallas was highlighted by the words of the President of the United States, as Barack Obama spoke movingly and eloquently about the extraordinary service performed on a daily basis by police officers throughout the country, how our police should be honored and appreciated. And the President told America that while race relations have certainly improved in the last 40 years, racism still exists and must be acknowledged and confronted and overcome. Well, the deaths of 5 police officers and the attention given to the memorial service in Dallas has touched the hearts of virtually all Americans, most of all, the citizens of Dallas. And there was another speaker at that memorial service, Rabbi Andrew Mark Paley, Rabbi of Temple Shalom, a Reformed congregation in Dallas. And Rabbi Paley offered a beautiful prayer at the service, and it's an honor to have him with us now on our JBS phones to give us a personal sense of what it was like to be at the memorial service for the slain policemen, and to learn how the Jewish community of Dallas has dealt with a blow to the city and this nation. And Andrew, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Mark. It's really great to be with you.
Thank you. So Andrew, can you give us a sense of what it was like to be at the service? It was a moving moment for the entire nation, but how did you feel?
Well, it was a really profound and powerful moment to be there. First of all, there were thousands of people in attendance. I don't know the exact number, but there were, it looked like thousands of police officers from all over the country who made an effort to be there. The families of the victims and our local and state and obviously national elected officials in there as well. So all of that and all of the presence of all of them really made it a very moving thing. The music was powerful. The Dallas Police Choir, kind of a local group of choirs sang. It was a stirring moment to be together.
It sounds amazing. Andrew, how did you learn that you were going to be part of the service?
So I'm a part of a interfaith clergy group called Faith Forward Dallas, Faith Leaders United for Peace and Justice. And we've been working very closely over this past year with the mayor's office on a variety of important topics. And I was notified on Monday morning that the mayor's office would be coordinating the efforts for a memorial service, that the president wanted to be there was extended an invitation from Mayor Rawlings, and that as a representative of Faith Forward Dallas, myself, the imam, and the minister would be involved in offering some prayers.
Very lovely. And how, Andrew, did you decide what you wanted to say? I mean, it's a big moment, and
Yes,
it's an important
indeed.
moment. It's a national moment. Everybody should understand, it's not easy for any clergyman, whether it's an imam or a member of the Catholic or Christian tradition or a rabbi, to get up.
Right.
And,
Right.
you know, how did you agonize? And are you married, Andrew?
I am.
Did you discuss this with your wife as well?
Indeed, and my wife, Deborah Niederman, who is my editor-in-chief for all
Yes.
of my comments,
Good.
was making sure that the right things were said in the right way.
All right. So what
I
did you try to say? What did you want to say?
So as many of these type moments with a lot of moving parts and speakers and media and all of that, we were informed very clearly that we had 2 minutes to speak. I like to think that they gave us 2 minutes knowing that we might go over. If they gave us 4 minutes, for sure we would have taken 8 minutes. So to know that I had 2 minutes to present a prayer was really a daunting task.
Absolutely.
The good news was that it was not a time to sermonize, and it was not a time to discuss policy or create necessarily solutions. And what the mayor has tried to say since the events unfolded was at what was most important, since it was a memorial service, was to bring the power and the efforts and the sentimentality of hope and healing. Mm-hmm. So that was sort of the overarching kind of theme, and I knew I wanted to try to bring to bear the Jewish sensibility that healing, so much a part of our liturgy, of our history, the way we talk about things, and the way we try to solve world and social problems, was really sort of my focus. And I used the prayer, perhaps you heard it or seen it, but the prayer that Moses cries out in response to Miriam, Elna Rafanallah, and that became my refrain. And
Beautiful.
what I really wanted, most importantly, not just for a message for the country, or even for the state, rather, but really for the people and the families who were right there, I wanted them to know that even though they don't know me, and they may not know our community, the Jewish community, that in spite of that, we care, and we want them to feel whatever healing power and whatever healing presence could be brought to bear.
That is beautiful. By the way, for anyone who does not know the reference, Moses says to God after Miriam is struck with leprosy, "Heal her now." And that was your message. Yes, Andrew?
Correct.
As our city is still reeling from the violence of only a few short days ago, we beseech you, O God, healer of the brokenhearted, with the words of Moses as he prayed for healing for his sister Miriam, Elna Rafanallah, please God, heal her. And so we pray to the families of our fallen Dallas police officers and Dallas Area Regional Transit Police Officer. We pray, Elna Rafanallah, please God, heal them, as we ask for your healing power to surround them and their loved ones in this, their time of need, with hope, with strength, and with love.
Beautiful.
So I tried to, I used that to not only offer, pleading with God to heal the families in their moment, but also to heal the city and to heal heal us from the violence and the xenophobia and the indifference. And that became my refrain. And I tried to condense that into a 2-minute package.
Well, you did a superb job, and basically, you understand, you represented all of us at that memorial service, and we are very, very proud, and I'm very, very grateful.
Thank you so much.
Andrew,
yes,
it's easy to fall into platitudes at a time like this. I want to understand, how long have you been a rabbi in Dallas?
12 years.
Okay. You know the community.
Yeah.
To what extent do you feel Dallas in general and I really am asking you about the Jewish community of Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
To what extent is there still overt racism in Dallas in general, or within the Jewish community of Dallas?
So, the overt racism is a thing that is, frankly, it is sort of pulsing underneath the everyday veil of the city. Dallas is a city that is spread out geographically north and south, and there is a great divide between South Dallas, where the black community is more centrally located, and the Jewish community, which primarily lives North Dallas. So there is a great divide geographically. There's a great divide economically. Mm-hmm. There's a great divide even amongst faith leaders. And so there's a lot of distance that has to be covered. To the extent that it's overt, I can't speak to any specific examples, but I know that there is because of the geography, as I think it was Brian Stevenson who said, we have to get proximate in order to solve a lot of problems, and part of the problem that Dallas has is the difficulty in getting proximate. So that will be a challenge for the Jewish community, especially. And I know Bradley Lay, our Federation Director and CEO, is involved in the conversations in the city to help bridge that a little bit. There's a lot of work to do, and the synagogues, I think, have an important role to play. So we'll see. I think that will be an emerging conversation, and I'm not exactly sure what direction it will take, nor am I. There's not agreement yet, even amongst the Jewish community, on how to move forward. But there is agreement, at least, to try.
Okay, I need you to help me some more understand what's really going on there. First of all, I find the word proximate. I'm telling you, Andrew, I'm being honest with you. I'm not comfortable with that word.
Yeah.
It's not personal enough.
Yeah. Right.
I wanted a word that expressed more of a relationship. Proximate is something, that it sounds like it's a mathematical formula, and we're going to approximate and get. He's talking about people are too distant from each other, correct?
Correct. That's the idea. Yeah.
Yes, and we should be closer to each other.
Right. Yeah.
And then I say to myself, I was watching the entire event unfold. What I found so striking also was that before the sniper began shooting, you had a rally in Dallas where the police and the demonstrators were interacting in a very lovely way. There was no animosity between the people of Dallas who were protesting. And they were protesting, by the way, we should remind all our viewers, they were protesting what seems to be inappropriate murders. I mean, they were very upsetting to see in two different states where police officers killed other black men, African Americans. And so you have now in Dallas almost an expression of sympathy, empathy, and to some extent outrage, and a warning to the nation: police officers must be held to a higher standard. And then out of nowhere, what seems to me to be, and I want to hear what you have to say, Andrew, it seems to me that some real crazy, an individual, isolated crazy.
Yes.
The same kind of crazy who walks into a Newtown elementary school and shoots up children, or somebody goes into a gay bar and shoots up people in Florida. So you have an individual crazy, going up in a high-rise building, and as a sniper picking off 4 police officers, and 1 transit cop. That does not seem to me to be, and that's why I need your help. It doesn't seem to me to be an endemic problem of racism in Dallas. To what extent am I missing something? To what extent do you feel that I've described it accurately?
I think you've described it really accurately. I think you've hit the nail right on the head. That was a complete, kind of opposite to what was happening. This shooting, to what was happening at the protest, and that the pulse in the city was never about anger towards our police,
yes,
and or anything. That's what made it so shocking.
Yes.
Because of the pictures and the images of the police doing their job in a most superb way,
lovely way,
protecting
right. Yes.
and serving in the way that they wanted and we desire, protecting those protesters in the face of some rather difficult language and signs, I'm sure,
yes.
that they heard or saw, but nevertheless still operating in a peaceful way. And for some of my clergy colleagues who were there at the protest, everything was running smoothly, obviously to the very, very end. So I think you described it exactly correct.
It's interesting for me, and again, now I'm expressing only myself, not JBS, certainly not for Andrew Paley, not for anybody in Dallas. My own feeling is that when the president says to us, the situation of racism in this country has improved, and yet it's not yet totally healed, I think he, to use your phrase, hits the nail on the head. But that's a very different nail with a different hammer than the kind of rhetoric that I've heard coming out of aspects of our community, both the African American and the white community, that is acting as if this country is going to hell and that this country is an evil society. And I have felt that in my lifetime, and I lived through the civil rights movement. I'm a little older than you are. And, you and I went to the same school. We were taught by many of the same professors. And I know of the heroism of an Abraham Joshua Heschel and an Arthur Lelyveld and a Gene Borowitz and rabbis across, and Jews were in the forefront of the civil rights movement. And it doesn't matter whether Jews get credit or not, and whether whether Heschel is in a movie or not, depicted in a movie or not. What was true is we have moved, as the president says, so far beyond where we were in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. I don't feel that this country is on the brink or is reflecting an overt racism that in some way tarnishes the good of the United States of America. Now, Andrew, that's just my feeling. I want to hear yours.
Yeah, I happen to agree. I think that, look, I quote the president more, that there are not riots in the streets. There is not the pain and the suffering that we experienced decades ago. It just isn't. And so in that respect, we have moved forward. We have made progress. And as evidenced by the president himself, we've made progress. Now, it's not to say that we don't have further issues to solve and to work on.
Absolutely.
And every city is certainly unique. One of the things that I think makes Dallas a special place is the leadership of Mayor Rawlings, who really acknowledged that while we have issues like every other big city, there is a willingness to try and to reach out across the geography and across a distance to really get to know one another. And this is the spirit upon which I think the mayor will continue to grow and perhaps be an example to help other cities do that. But I can't speak for other cities, and I can't speak for other localities that have overt racism happening in many places. That I happen to agree. I don't think that is systemic across the country, nor is it a tinderbox ready to explode. I don't think that either. What I think has happened is that there's been awareness, a larger sort of awakening and sensitivity to some of the issues that some in the community, some and others in minority communities have been feeling and expressing, and now are getting a certain amount of attention, and that's a good thing.
I agree.
And if we in our historic claim to repair that which is broken in the world, can be a part of the solution, which we should be, and helping people not feel that they were estranged in their own, even in their own town, then we have that responsibility. And I think the Jewish community will take a leadership role in doing that. And I hope we'll continue to make strides and efforts towards reaching out, and not just. And I understand what you meant before. Not just being approximate, but by being proximate, being knowledgeable of who is in the community and being connected to them. That's really the key.
You say it beautifully. And by the way, I don't want anybody to misunderstand my own perspective here. It's still, any person who is born of color is still at a disadvantage in the United States of America. And, white Jews living in the United States of America, in terms of the sweep of our history, Andrew, we may be the luckiest Jews who have ever lived.
No doubt. Absolutely.
And in no way do I mean to minimize the distinction here between being white and of color in this country. And when the president says there's still work to do, that we must confront racism wherever it occurs, and that there is still racism in the hearts of men, women, and children of all color, and also even of Jews.
Right.
It's just that I do not feel the sky is falling, and I feel that what you had here was such a horrific moment that the entire nation sort of descended on Dallas. These were 5 police officers. I believe this is the largest mass shooting of police where death has occurred, maybe in our, certainly in this and the prior century. And so there was reason for the president and the former president, and quite honestly for Rabbi Andrew Paley to be there. But I also don't want to fall into the cliche here that this event epitomizes black racism or black hatred of whites in America. This was an isolated, crazy, who went much further than I believe everybody else who was marching peacefully in the street, who was angry. They were angry, but they weren't about to shoot anybody, Andrew.
Right, absolutely, right. Yeah. And the beautiful thing about that was the ability for angry citizens to exercise their constitutional right to gather and to express themselves in a safe and protected environment should be the really important optic and takeaway. It's no different in many cases to think about people, anti-Semites, and who perpetrate acts against the Jewish community. And I draw the distinction in a similar way that anti-Semitism as an ism, right, as a national movement or something like that, is not institutionalized. It had been in generations past either. There are anti-Semites and there are anti-Semitic acts, but anti-Semitism, like racism, institutionalized. We've in many ways, in many places, have moved past that.
Absolutely.
And I think you're right. And I think that we've come too far and made too many important strides to paint this as like you said, as a cliche against against all the violence and things that are going on.
Okay, one last question for you.
Yeah.
You're sitting there, and President Obama is speaking, and look, one of his greatest strengths is being able to be eloquent at important moments in history. What moved you, either from him or from David Brown, the police chief, or anything, as we sort of wrap this up, give me what Andrew Paley was feeling in his heart as he sits there and sees some very moving moments.
Right. So I too not only was moved by the president's remarks and his delivery, but more important, the symbol of him being there.
Yes.
And what really moved me was actually what happened before the ceremony began, we were waiting backstage for his arrival and the vice president. And when he arrived, we had a few moments, the clergy and some others backstage, and we were able to just talk for a brief moment. And I said to Mr. President, we're honored and thrilled that you are here, and sorry that you are here for the 11th time in his presidency, making this kind of, having this kind of ceremony.
Yes.
And he looked at us and he said, I'm genuinely heartbroken that we are here together again. And what moved me so deeply is to see the humanity and the seriousness with which he took this moment, and as a real human being. And I was very close. I was sitting right behind him for the whole ceremony, and to know that he's a man and a father and a husband and a genuinely caring soul. That compound with his words and his delivery reminded us, at least me, in a real powerful way, what a human moment this was, and it's something I won't easily forget.
Andrew, I want to say again, you made us all proud. You're a wonderful rabbi. I'm glad I get to meet you on the phone because of JBS. I hope one day you and I will meet in person, and I wish you kol tuv v'hatzlacha in all your work, professionally and personally. And thank you for giving us some time.
I appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity. Have a great day.
Be well. The thoughts of Rabbi Andrew Mark Paley, Rabbi of Temple Shalom in Dallas, Texas, who represented the Jewish community of Dallas and really the country at the memorial service honoring the 5 slain police officers. And all of us send our most profound, deepest condolences to the family of all 5 of the slain officers. May their memory be forever a blessing. As always, my thanks to Sloan Copeland, our director, production coordinator Serge Goldberg, editor Dennis Golan, JBS's associate director Dara Golub, and the producer of this edition of In the News, Carol Lilienthal. Until the next time, I'm Mark Golub. Be well, my friends.